Let me tell you something I've learned over the years, something simple, but not easy. It's this: success doesn't show up for the most talented, it shows up for the most consistent. You can have the best intentions, the biggest dreams, the greatest potential in the world. But if you can't get yourself to follow through, none of it matters. And I don't say that to discourage you. I say it to remind you, the power to change your life isn't found in inspiration. It's found in discipline. Now, I know how it goes. You start with a spark. You feel motivated for a few days, maybe even a few weeks. You write goals, you buy the planner, you talk about big things. But then, life happens, the energy fades, the comfort calls, and that old voice shows up again. Just take it easy. Start tomorrow. You've got time. But the truth is, nothing changes until you decide to show up anyway. Not just on the good days, but especially on the hard ones. You don't need to feel like doing it. You need to do it anyway. That's how you go from lazy to locked in. That's how you build the kind of life you don't need to run away from. So today, we're going to talk about what it takes to force consistency, not just wish for it, not just hope it happens, but how to command it. How to train your mind, build discipline, and create habits that carry you day in, day out, whether motivation shows up or not. Because if you can learn how to be consistent, you can do anything, and I mean that. Anything. Discipline is a decision, not a feeling. That's one of the most important lessons anyone who wants to live a consistent life must understand. You see, if you wait until you feel like being disciplined, you'll wait forever. Feelings are unpredictable. One day you wake up inspired, the next you wake up tired, unmotivated, and full of excuses. If your actions are dictated by your emotions, you'll always be a slave to circumstance. But when discipline becomes a decision, an agreement you make with yourself regardless of how you feel, you begin to take real control over your life. The problem most people face isn't a lack of goals. It's not even a lack of talent. It's a lack of follow-through. They start strong, but don't stay strong. They make promises to themselves, and then break them the moment it gets uncomfortable. But discipline doesn't negotiate with comfort. It shows up whether it's convenient or not. It gets out of bed when the alarm goes off, not because it feels good, but because the mission matters. That's the shift from feelings to decisions, from emotion to execution. When you make discipline a non-negotiable decision, you stop looking for motivation as the only fuel. You create a system, a structure, a standard. You no longer ask, "Do I feel like doing this today?" Instead, you say, "This is who I am, this is what I do." And the beauty of it is, over time, the decision becomes your default. It becomes your identity. You stop thinking about doing the work and just do the work. Not because it's easy, not because you're in the mood, but because it's what's required. Every consistent person you admire, whether it's an athlete, a leader, an entrepreneur, or an artist, they didn't get there by chance. They got there by deciding day after day to do what needed to be done, even when they were tired, even when they were discouraged, even when no one was watching. And that decision, the decision to be disciplined, is what separated them from the rest. It's not about having more willpower, it's about having a made-up mind. Think about it like brushing your teeth. You don't debate it every night. You don't ask yourself if you're in the mood, you just do it. Because it's what's expected. That's the level of consistency discipline demands. It turns the difficult into the automatic. It takes things you once struggled to begin and makes them part of your rhythm, part of your lifestyle. That shift doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen when you stop treating discipline like a feeling and start treating it like a commitment. Your environment shapes your execution. One of the biggest reasons people struggle with consistency isn't because they lack discipline. It's because they're constantly trying to do the right things in the wrong environment. You can have the best intentions, the clearest goals, and the strongest mindset. But if you're surrounded by distractions, temptations, or negativity, your consistency will suffer. The spaces you spend time in, the people you interact with, and the systems you set up all play a massive role in whether or not you follow through. If your environment encourages laziness, it's going to be incredibly hard to stay disciplined. If your workspace is cluttered, your phone is always buzzing with notifications, your friends mock your ambition, and your routines are chaotic, then it's not about willpower, it's about setting yourself up to fail. Consistency thrives in structure. It thrives in simplicity. It thrives when your surroundings are aligned with your goals. That's why the most successful people are intentional about their environment. They don't leave it to chance, they design it. They craft spaces that support their habits. They remove what drains their focus and multiply what strengthens it. Changing your environment doesn't always mean moving to a new city or cutting everyone off. Sometimes it's as small as setting your clothes out the night before, keeping your phone in another room during deep work, or listening to uplifting content instead of endless noise. It's about making the path to your habits easier, smoother, and less filled with resistance. If you want to eat healthier, don't stock junk food in your kitchen. If you want to read more, keep a book by your bed. If you want to work out regularly, set up your space so that it invites action, not avoidance. Your environment speaks to your mind even when you're not conscious of it. A tidy desk signals readiness. A chaotic room breeds excuses. The people you're around either fan your flame or drain your fire. You have to guard your energy by guarding your space. Surround yourself with those who value consistency, who take action, who speak life into your goals. Because consistency is contagious, but so is complacency. Look around at your current setup. Is it helping you or hurting you? Is it making your desired behavior the easy choice or the hard one? Are you surrounded by reminders of your discipline or distractions pulling you away from it? Small changes in your environment often lead to massive results in your behavior. When your space is aligned with your purpose, you don't have to rely so much on discipline because your environment starts doing some of the work for you. Start small, but never stay small. This is one of the most misunderstood truths about building consistency. Too many people think they have to overhaul their entire life overnight. They believe that in order to be successful, they must start big, make massive moves, and transform everything at once. But real consistency doesn't begin with grand gestures. It begins with tiny, intentional actions repeated with purpose. The key is to lower the barrier to action so much that it becomes impossible not to start. And once you start, momentum becomes your best friend. When you start small, you bypass the resistance that comes with overthinking. You remove the weight of perfection. Instead of saying, I have to go to the gym for 2 hours, say, I'm going to do 5 push-ups. Instead of saying, I'm going to write a book, say, I'm going to write 1 paragraph. It might sound insignificant, but that small action rewires your brain. It teaches you that you are someone who follows through. That shift in identity is more important than the action itself, because once you believe you're consistent, you'll act like it. But here's where most people get stuck. They start small and they stay small. They use starting as an excuse to avoid stretching. That's not what this principle is about. Starting small is a strategy to overcome inertia, not a strategy to stay comfortable. Once the habit is in motion, you must expand it. You must challenge it. You must grow it. Because if you're not stretching your capacity, you're not building strength. You're just repeating. Consistency isn't about staying in your comfort zone. It's about showing up every day and doing a little more than you did yesterday. The 5 push-ups become 10. The paragraph becomes a page. The quiet 5 minutes of reading becomes a chapter. Small becomes steady, and steady becomes strong. That's the real evolution. But it starts with something simple enough that your brain doesn't resist it. Something so doable that you can't talk yourself out of it. And that's where power begins. When you focus on small, sustainable actions, you also eliminate the all-or-nothing trap. You stop quitting just because you missed a day. You stop feeling like a failure because you didn't go all in. You realize that progress isn't about intensity, it's about consistency. It's not how hard you hit the ground running, it's how often you're willing to take that next step. And the best part is, those small actions compound. Over time, they build habits, and habits build lifestyles, and lifestyles build legacies. But none of it starts with massive change. It starts with one small, intentional move in the right direction, done again and again, with purpose and with patience. Track progress, not perfection. One of the biggest killers of consistency is the unrealistic expectation that every day has to be flawless. That every workout has to be intense, every meal has to be clean, every to-do list has to be fully checked off. But the truth is, progress is never perfect. And the people who stay consistent are not the ones who do everything right. They're the ones who stay aware of what's improving and keep moving forward, even when it's messy. That's why tracking your progress matters more than waiting to be perfect. When you track your progress, you create a mirror that reflects your growth. It gives you a visual record of how far you've come, which builds confidence. It turns vague effort into concrete wins. It allows you to measure movement, no matter how small, and that measurement creates momentum. Without tracking, you're walking in the dark. You might be improving, but you won't see it. And if you can't see it, you'll start to believe you're stuck, even when you're not. That's when discouragement creeps in. That's when you start to wonder if the effort is even worth it. The power of tracking is that it trains your mind to value progress over perfection. It teaches you that showing up and getting it done, even at 70%, is better than not showing up at all. And that's what separates those who stay locked in from those who fall off. They don't let a bad day turn into a bad week. They don't let one mistake erase all the work they've done. They measure their effort, they notice their improvement, and they keep moving forward. Tracking also helps you stay honest with yourself. It removes the illusion of effort. You might think you're being consistent, but the numbers tell the truth. If you said you'd work out 5 times a week and you only did 2, the tracker doesn't lie. But that's not a reason to beat yourself up. It's a reason to adjust, to refocus, to get back on track with clarity. Tracking is not about guilt, it's about awareness, and awareness is the foundation of growth. It doesn't have to be complicated. A simple notebook, a calendar, a habit tracking app, a checklist. What matters is that you create a system where your actions are visible. That visibility builds accountability. It gives you something to celebrate. It reminds you that even small steps count. And when you see that streak, when you see that string of check marks or completed tasks, you begin to associate consistency with success. That's when the habit becomes rewarding. That's when showing up becomes a game you want to keep winning. Because now, you're not chasing perfection. You're building momentum one day at a time with a clear view of how much stronger, sharper, and more disciplined you've become. Remove emotion from the equation. Just show up. One of the most powerful shifts you can make in your pursuit of consistency is to separate your emotions from your actions. Too many people wait until they feel like it to begin, to work, to follow through. But feelings are inconsistent, unreliable, and often driven by comfort. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. Consistency isn't built on emotion, it's built on commitment. And that means learning how to act independently of your mood. When you wake up tired, when motivation is low, when things don't go as planned, those are the exact moments that define your level of discipline. Anyone can show up when it's easy. Anyone can be consistent when everything is going their way. But those who master their emotions and still take action, they're the ones who build unshakable momentum. The secret is simple, even if it's not easy. You stop giving your feelings the final say. This doesn't mean you become emotionless. It means you recognize your feelings, but you don't obey them. You acknowledge that you're tired, you note that you're unmotivated, but then you go do what you said you would do anyway. That builds self-respect. That builds identity. Every time you show up despite how you feel, you send a message to your mind: I follow through. I can be counted on, I lead myself. Routines help make this possible. When you remove the need to decide every day whether or not to act, you take emotions out of the driver's seat. You no longer debate your decisions. You just follow your plan. You become the kind of person who doesn't skip workouts. Not because they always want to train, but because training is what they do. You write, you study, you build, not because it always feels good, but because it aligns with who you've committed to becoming. This mindset is what turns professionals into masters. They don't need to be hyped up. They don't rely on energy or excitement. They rely on habits, on structure, on principle. And by doing so, They free themselves from the emotional roller coaster that traps so many others. Every time you act despite your feelings, you strengthen your discipline muscle. You quiet the voice that says, "Skip today." You drown out the excuses. You get stronger, sharper, more focused. The truth is, if you want to be consistent, you have to treat your commitments like appointments. You wouldn't cancel an important meeting just because you're not in the mood. You wouldn't skip work just because you're feeling off. You show up because it's your job. That same mindset, applied to your goals, becomes the foundation of your consistency. When showing up becomes your standard, not your option, the results take care of themselves. It stops being about how you feel and starts being about what you've chosen to do over and over, until it becomes who you are. Reward the habit, not just the outcome. One of the most overlooked tools in building consistency is understanding how to create internal motivation that sustains your efforts long before the big results show up. Too many people quit because they only celebrate the big wins. The weight lost, the promotion earned, the business launched. But those milestones are few and far between. If the only time you feel successful is when you hit a major goal, you're setting yourself up for long periods of frustration and burnout. The secret to staying consistent is to learn how to feel good about the process itself. Your brain is wired to seek rewards. It craves validation. And if the only reward comes months down the road, your brain will naturally start to resist the behavior. But when you begin to attach positive feelings to the act of showing up, to the discipline, to the habit, to the daily grind, you shift from chasing motivation to creating it. It's no longer about waiting for a result to feel good. It becomes about feeling good every time you follow through. That's how you create a loop of momentum that feeds itself. Start by recognizing and reinforcing the act of consistency itself. When you complete a workout, acknowledge the win, even if it was short or didn't feel perfect. When you write a page, check it off with pride. When you stick to your meal plan, even slightly, give yourself credit. These micro celebrations train your mind to associate consistency with success. Over time, you begin to crave the act of showing up, not just the end goal. That craving becomes your fuel on the days when results are invisible, progress feels slow, or doubt tries to creep in. This approach also builds emotional resilience. By learning to love the process, you're less likely to get discouraged by temporary setbacks or plateaus. You stop defining your success by one single outcome and start seeing the value in the person you're becoming along the way. The journey becomes meaningful, the effort becomes rewarding, and the identity of a consistent person takes root deeply within you. Another powerful aspect of rewarding the habit is that it encourages you to stay mindful. Instead of blindly checking off tasks, you begin to pay attention to how you're improving, what you're learning, how your habits are stacking up. That mindfulness deepens your commitment. It transforms routine into ritual. It adds purpose to repetition. You're no longer just doing things to get somewhere. You're becoming someone worth being. You start to connect your daily actions to your deeper values. And when your habits are aligned with your identity and your values, consistency no longer feels forced. It feels natural. Even when progress is slow or invisible, the act of staying the course becomes its own victory. You keep showing up because you've trained your mind to feel good about doing the work. That's the key. Don't wait for the world to validate your results. Start validating your effort. Start rewiring your brain to celebrate the consistency, not just the conclusion. Let's be real. Consistency is not glamorous. It's not always loud. It's not always visible, and it rarely gets applause in the moment. But make no mistake, it is the difference maker. It's what separates the dreamers from the doers, the talkers from the builders. While others are waiting to feel inspired, while they're waiting for perfect timing or for motivation to magically appear, you'll already be 10 steps ahead because you decided that showing up mattered more than feeling ready. You see, success doesn't go to the most talented or the most gifted. It doesn't go to the one with the best plan or the most resources. It goes to the one who keeps showing up when it's boring, when it's hard, when it's lonely, and when nobody's watching. That's what builds character. That's what forges discipline, and that's what creates unstoppable momentum. Because consistency over time compounds, it multiplies your effort, it sharpens your edge. It builds something inside of you that can't be shaken. Identity. Every day you show up, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you want to become. Not just a person who works hard, but a person who honors their word. A person who keeps promises to themselves. A person who takes control of their own destiny. That kind of self-trust is rare. That kind of confidence can't be faked. And it's only built through consistent, repeated action, especially on the days you don't feel like it. So stop waiting for the perfect mood. Stop needing everything to align before you take that next step. Show up, even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient, because how you do the small things is how you do everything. And every time you push through resistance, you reinforce the truth that you are capable, you are disciplined, and you are in control of your life. Let the world chase quick fixes and shortcuts. Let them search for hacks and magic formulas. You've chosen a different path. A path where success is earned daily, not granted suddenly. A path where results are built on grit, not guesswork. A path where you don't wait to feel motivated. You move and motivation catches up. And when you look back, months or years from now, you won't be the same person who started this journey. You'll be stronger, sharper, locked in, because you chose to stop negotiating with your feelings and instead made a commitment to consistency. That's how greatness is built, quietly, daily, relentlessly.